We are now prepared to introduce our next speaker, and we have a gentleman in the back of the room, Cliff, who is a representative of Go. He's standing up here. He's going to be part of our panel to answer any questions that Tim Cox is about to present. So we want to get Tim queued up. I'll be introducing him at this time. With 25 years of experience in the high-tech world, author Tim Cox has worked side by side of many powerful individuals. But after helping Dell grow to a $55 billion Fortune 25 giant, he shifted gears, walking away from a lucrative career in the tech industry and rededicated his life to this bold and noble cause. I'm going to interject here in this introduction for a minute. We've all had it up to our eyeballs with what we're getting out of Washington, right? Yes. Tim Cox has a plan, okay? He has a plan. Today, Tim aims for loftier goals, an overhaul of our nation's government and a House of Representatives unfettered by special interest groups. To outline his plan, Cox has released Get Out of Our House Revolution. You should pick up this book, which he details a new method for restoring the integrity of America via the U.S. House of Representatives. The plan is to evict each current representative and replace them with ordinary citizens. In the book, Get Out of Our House Revolution, Cox also examines the key issues of our current representatives that they have neglected and provides a grassroots strategy for holding our newly selected representatives accountable. I'm not talking about a new party. I'm talking about that in this discussion. The Get Out of Our House movement represents a revolutionary effort to create a congressional body that will truly reflect the interests of everyone in this room and the people in this country. Tim will show us a workable system to cleanse the House of Representatives and replace the House with a qualified everyday citizen to uphold the Constitution. If you have, as I said, had it up to your eyeballs with politics as usual from the two-headed party, one-party system, then I encourage you to listen up. Hopefully the technology is working. He is from Texas, but he's joining us today from Washington, D.C. Please welcome Tim Cox.
If I could get you in the room, just give me a thumbs up if the voice and audio is about right here. I don't want to be too loud.
Good. Everything's good, Tim.
All right. I think we're good. Well, thanks for having me. I'm, as you mentioned, calling in from Washington, D.C. I haven't done one of these quite like this over Skype, so I hope you'll bear with me. I can see you guys, so if you put your head on the table or fall asleep, I'll know, so don't do that. That would be kind of embarrassing. But I'm here today to tell you about this plan. It's a seemingly impossible sounding plan when you first hear it, but it's a plan to replace all 435 members of the United States House of Representatives. And while we acknowledge that there are a few good ones that are up there, what we're proposing is a shift in how we select representatives. And it sounds impossible. We're going to take about 25 minutes here and explain this to you, and hopefully you'll understand what we're doing. But I'm going to kind of tell you a story first on how I get there. And I always like to start off by saying I'm convinced that we all have a purpose in life. We're all here for a reason. And a few years ago, I kind of came across a few things in my life that led me to walk away from my career and be here. And I like to start when I tell the story by going way back when I was about 22 years old. I was a young man hunting in the middle of Texas. I had my rifle. I was sneaking through the woods, hunting one morning. And as I went through these woods, I just kind of rounded this cedar tree. I was on the top of a little mesa looking down in the valley below, and right in front of me was the biggest flock of rattlesnakes you've ever seen in your life. This enormous coil, this monster head comes up, and then a second head right in front of me, and all my momentum is leaning. I'm going forward and downhill, and there's no way in the world I'm not about to take that next step. And as you sit there and kind of imagine this picture, you know what's about to happen, you can see it, you can almost feel what's about to happen. You don't ever want to be there. And I can tell you, when I think of that moment in my life, it reminds me of exactly where we are with this government today. And when I say that, I'm talking about this out-of-control government, this massive debt that's growing and growing. How are our grandkids going to pay for that? I'm talking about borders that leak like a sieve, an education system that fails 30% of our kids year after year, a tax code that's corrupt and so convoluted, not even the people that run the system can figure out what taxes they need to pay. And you look at that and you just ask yourself, yourself why. How did we get here? How is this system so out of control? And I think if you sit there and reflect that for a moment, we all understand it's because we don't have representatives in office anymore. We have politicians. We have guys, if you think about the folks that are up there, and you can kind of go down this list, think of Arlen Specter, right, 5 times a U.S. Senator. He switches parties, which people do all the time. When he switched party, he had the gall to say, I'm not going to let the members of my district determine the fate of my political career. Now, they got him when he actually shifted, he switched parties, and the Democrats said, well, we don't want you either. But that's a very, very rare case when an incumbent loses. He lost because he switched parties. But think of all the folks that are up there. Guys like Jonathan down in Georgia. Did y'all hear this? When he was worried the island of Guam might capsize if we put too many Marines down on the base there and their families. He was worried that an island could tip over. And you just look at that and you say, how are these people the ones running our country? We have guys like Charles Rangel up in New York. 20 terms, he's been a member of the House of Representatives. He seems as guilty as he can be on 13 of these different counts, and yet they can't decide if they want to remove him or not from office. It's like moving a mountain to make that happen. And you could go on and on down this list. My representative is Congressman John Carter from Texas, a Republican. He was asked at a town hall this summer about term limits, and he had the gall to say that only my wife or God will term limit me. That's how arrogant these people are. They're so secure that this is their position. It's just completely out of control. And I could go on and on with Foley from Florida or Massa from New York. The list is endless. And you look at this and you say, how did we get here? Why is this like this? Now, in 2005, a sequence of events kind of happened in my life that led me right here today. It started when my family and I moved to a little town called Liberty Hill out in Texas. And looking back now, what an appropriate name for a town for me to be living in. But right after we moved, my mother came down with cancer. She went through a short battle and lost. Shortly after that, I was coaching a youth baseball team and been teaching these kids for years and years. But one of the dads that was coaching with us committed suicide. It was a devastating moment for those kids and everybody involved. And I was just emotionally spent, kind of burnt out, and told the family, you know, we need to get out of town. So we booked a vacation and we went to Florida. We thought we'd get away. Well, 3 days before we take off to Florida, a shark attacked the surfer right off the coast of the hotel where we're going to stay. So swimming for the Cox family when we get to Florida. Right as we're driving into town, the air conditioner on the Suburban breaks, and I said, boy, that's all we need. So I get everybody checked in. The next morning I walk over to the auto store. The guy kind of takes a quick look and he says, yeah, we can fix this for you. It's your compressor. I'll get it for you today. I know you're on vacation. It'll only cost you $1,000, but I'll take care of you. And I said, great. That's kind of the way the year's going. And I asked him, is there a bookstore somewhere nearby I can go get something to read while I'm here? And he said, yeah, there's one that's about 3 miles up the street. He goes, go ahead and walk. You've got plenty of time. It's going to take us all day to fix this. So I take off. I start walking up to the bookstore. I call my brother as I'm going, and I say, hey, Steve, what are you reading? And he said, get this book, Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So I go in and I tell the guy I want that book. And the young lady over here, there's a different lady, she says, sir, I got a book I want you to read. And I said, yeah, what's that? She goes, come with me. And she walks me over to the history section. She gets over there, she hands me a book, and I'm not a history guy, I'm not a government guy at all, I'm kind of a computer and sports guy. But she hands me this book, and I look at it, and I said, that's not for me, thanks for the recommendation. She goes, no, I really want you to read this book. It was called A Brilliant Solution. It was about James Madison and the writing of the Constitution back in the day. And I kind of looked at it, it looked kind of interesting. I said, I'm on vacation, I'm going to go to the Zen book, that sounds pretty cool. And I handed it back to her, and I turned to walk away. She goes, sir, I want you to read this book. Third time, very insistent. So I figure she's on commission, she's doing a pretty good job. So I take the book, I go up and I pay for the book, I check out. I go back and I start reading it at the car place while they fix the car. Now the next day, here comes a hurricane, I think it was called Cindy at the time, blowing through Pensacola, Florida. And it's like, man, that's all I need. So we sat there, it's just a tropical storm, it kind of blows through, but I got to read the book. And it was a fascinating book. If you ever want to read a book from the day, go get this book, A Brilliant Solution. The next day was a beautiful day. We go